David and housekeeping Alex and Jeff.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Welcome, guys. We got a big episode for you. Welcome, insiders. Thank you guys so much for supporting our show. We have, as you see, a special guest, and we will get into that in a second as we introduce him. But we want to let you guys know, again, that we are sponsored by the Virtual Fight Tour. And, man, we are excited for this next big challenge. They just put out a Put Up or Shut Up. Jesse was on a show with myself, Chris Walker, and Carlos Tierney last night explaining the reason why he did the Put Up or Shut Up, trying to get the best teams out there to put their money up and get a big pot of money and putting that out in the VFT format. So I know he's aiming for possibly the Friday before his tournament in September. So start contacting Jesse. And if you want to be in this show and if you feel like you have the team to win, go out there and do it. So
I was so bummed I couldn't be live with you guys.
Yeah, it was
I was
fun.
like trying to chime in when I could, but I couldn't even get there.
Yeah, it happens, man. We all have busy lives. But again, guys, so check out Virtual Fight Tour. Go to virtualfighttour.com and check out all their stuff. All right, so we got our special guest, Kyle Montagna. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Great to see you. It's been a long time. Like when we logged in, we're like, man, I don't even remember the last time.
6 years.
Yeah.
It's been six years since you stepped on the mat?
It's been 6 years. 2016 was my last tournament, which was the U.S. Open.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
Jackson already saying, what's up?
Did you think, wait a minute, time out. Just before we continue, did you think that there would be a time where you'd look back and you go, I am 6 years removed from stepping on the mat?
Recently, it kind of was brought up at my work. So I work as a firefighter paramedic. And a lot of the guys, so when I got hired, they heard that I was in martial arts and competed in martial arts. So automatically they're like, Kung Fu Kyle. It's Kung Fu Kyle, Kung Fu Kyle. So somebody asked me the other day, they're like, how long has it been since you competed? I was like, it's been 6 years. And then it hit me all of a sudden that I was just like, whoa, it's been 6 years.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it.
Does it feel like it was like last year or something?
Oh yeah, it still does. And I'm 29 years old. I'm turned 30 this year. I ended my career at 23. Wow. My sport karate career, and it's crazy to think that.
Both of those things are crazy to hear.
Yeah, I know.
That you're 29 and that
right.
you ended your karate career at 23. This is crazy to hear.
Right.
It's crazy.
That was a lot. That's what people asked me at the U.S. Open when I was like, oh, I'm done. And they're like, how old are you? I was like 23. They're like, why? And I'm like, I had my reasons. We'll get to it a little bit later. My reasons.
Awesome.
Well,
So let's go ahead and get to go ahead.
How did you get started in all this thing? Because I was just talking to Jeff, and you backstage. Like, I'll tell you this. Like, I remember hearing about this Kyle Montagna, like this figure, right? I remember hearing about this, and I saw a couple of videos of your weapons forms. But the first time I actually saw you compete live, you were already on Paul Mitchell, right? Mm-hmm. And I was, and by the way, your form in person hits way different than it does watching the video. Yeah. Like the bundle of intensity that you have, right? Is something rare from competitors today, but we'll get into that as well. But how did you get started in this stuff, man?
So like anything, I got my black belt, and that was a challenge. I accomplished it. And then all of a sudden it was kind of like, okay, what's the next thing? Because at my karate school, there was never a push of competition. It was, oh, come to classes, we dabble here and there, but never the, oh, do you want to compete? So I got exposed to competitions from watching. So I'm from Florida. So we used to have this thing called the Sun Sports Network, and it had reruns of the US Open. And it's going to bother me that I don't know the year. I believe it was like 1998 US Open. I believe
Oh, that's like one of the most epic
Richard
ones.
Brandon,
Yeah.
John Valera,
Kim Do.
and Kim Do.
Yep.
Making them go again. I was watching that and immediately was just like, oh,
I need some of that in my life.
That's the coolest thing ever. And then they played the next one they played was, I forgot what year of US Open, but it had a young Wayne Douglas with the party looking mullet.
Yeah.
Business in the front, party in the back type thing.
Yeah.
Lauren and Casey. And I was just like, oh man.
Yeah.
I want to do that. So I learned a lot of the things from watching, and this is going to show my age. I would go on my computer, and it was a dial-up computer, so I had to tell my parents, oh, I'm going on the internet, dial up, and I would watch old sport martial arts videos. So I watch guys like, I would watch Lauren, Casey, Joey Greenhall, Ross Levine, all those guys to pick up some stuff, pick up bow, anything at the time. And I really gravitated towards the bow because I felt like it was easy. It came easy to me. Was easier to learn.
I want to pause for a second. Raul, what year is this, about the time this is happening?
Oh, this was about 2005 because that was the first year I went to the US Open just to watch.
That's such a good stage.
Awesome.
And just in awe. This little kid, it was like a kid in a candy store seeing Craig Henningsen, Matt Emming, Lauren, all these people that I watched on ESPN, I watched on reruns. They were there. And I looked at my parents. I was like, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. So I started off slow doing Kick USA in Florida.
Okay.
Won a national championship with that. And after I did that for a year. And after I did it for a year, I was like, okay, I want to go. Let's do NASCA. And my parents sat me down and they're like, you want to do this? This is what you're going to do. You're going to have to put X amount of time in, effort. And I immediately was like, yeah, let's do it.
And how old were you? How old were you at this time?
I was 12, just about to turn 13.
All right. Yep.
That's a good age
Yep.
to really take full responsibility for something like this, because
Yeah.
while it's very good to get started at, 7, 8, years old, you don't really, it's hard to grasp mentally the kind of responsibility you have to have. But at 12 or 13, you also understand to a certain degree the financial burden that your parents are going to have on that.
Right.
Absolutely. And, my dad, he's a retired cop. He retired as a deputy chief for the same department I actually work for. My mom used to cut hair, and she then went into work as a paralegal, and it was a lot. And at the time, it wasn't until I got to a certain age where I really saw the finances going into it and being like, oh, this is, it's a lot, and it's like, that's like with any sport, football, baseball, sport, martial arts. There's some money that goes into it, and it's wow, they're really working a lot of money into it. So I got to really work hard, and I have to, go into, even the days I didn't want to go to practice, which all of us have been there. You know what? I have to hit a 2.5 hour practice, or an hour and a half practice, something to show that, hey, your money is going into the right place. It's showing that, the hard work is showing and paying off.
So, all right. I mean, what you just dropped there was pretty good, and it was important for, hey, if there are young listeners listening, right? This stuff ain't free.
Right.
But I mean, I mentioned this a lot. I mean, I'd say I probably drop this little tidbit like every third episode that I think sponsorships are backwards. However, karate's not really that expensive of a sport
compared to
other activities.
True.
Right? It's once you get to our level,
Right.
That's
now,
when
because it's like it goes from like one extreme where it's like pretty low. Like what are we talking? Like because we're talking $150 a month maximum for what your monthly dues might be. That's just what you're paying. All right.
Right.
Then you have upgrades on pieces of equipment, but it's not every month. And then all of a sudden you go, boom, completely the other direction. Now you're doing
in a regional, in a regional tournament or local tournament, even still today is what, $65, $70 at the most for 3 divisions. You know what I mean? Local tournaments.
And local tournaments, and depending on how far of a drive it is, you think about it. That's gas. Mm-hmm. That's time. If it's 4 hours away, okay, I'm not gonna. Some people will take that. Compete do the whole day and then go back. Or hey, I'm tired. Let's buy a hotel room. That's another expense right there. And then when you get to our level, you're buying a plane ticket, hotel.
Hey, buddy.
All your divisions, food. That adds up quick. And then once you come back, 2 weeks later, I have to go back again.
Right. And especially when you want to get to that level, it's the training as well, the private lessons with certain people, the extra, getting there a day earlier most of the time because you're doing so much, anything else they ask you to do, it's a lot. It's a whole different level though from competing. Because as an instructor right now, I have students that I'm trying to get to go to bigger events, and they see the price difference from 65 for 3 divisions to 65 or 70 or 80 for the first division. You're like, whoa, that's a huge jump. So it's tough. It really is.
It's tough, especially in the times. Unfortunately, the times we're living in today. It's tough. A lot of prices are starting to get jacked up.
All right,
it is what it is.
I got to time out just for a sec.
Yep.
My boy, Zachary, say hi. Exactly.
Hey, buddy.
He wanted to see his dad. However, the reason I'm pausing is because you can see how sweet he's being. However, in this exact moment, Zachary, did you just fart on me? Did you just fart right on me? You did too. Give me a hug. I love you. You want to say hi? Say hi. No, say hi. Okay.
Hey, buddy.
Zachary.
Are you gonna be a karate champion just like Jeff and Kyle? No. Okay.
No.
Well, I love you, buddy. Okay. All right. Give me a hug. All right, right here. Hey, right here. Right there.
Oh,
okay.
There we go.
Right, buddy. I love you.
That's good stuff, man.
Love you, bud. Sorry about that, guys.
No, you're good.
That's good stuff. But yeah, man, it's a lot. It's a lot. So Kyle, let's get into, like as you get into NASCA and who you start training with to get you to that level. So
I don't know if you might remember this name, Ricky Morris.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that name?
Yes.
Okay.
Very competitive.
So his father used to work with my dad in the police force.
Okay.
So they introduced us to Lauren. They're like, hey, we have this girl that we go to. She's local to South Florida area. Her name's Lauren Carney. And my parents are like, oh, okay. And once they mentioned Lauren to me, I'm like, Lauren Carney. What?
Yeah.
No, she lives 20 minutes away from us. They're like, yeah. That's so they literally, I was at a local tournament when they told us about it. That next day, I had a lesson with Lauren.
That's so cool.
That's pretty dope.
That's cool.
And it's funny because if you ever ask her the story, and the first time I met her, not a word out of my mouth. It was just a headshake the whole time. Where my dad is filming, he's just like, you can talk, you know that, right? And I'm just like,
yeah.
Over time, we built that relationship, and I was with Lauren for my whole career. I never ventured out to anyone else. She was the person I was my go-to. It was like, hey, I have this idea, Lauren. What do you think? She'd be like, oh, it's good, but here's how you could do it differently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was a big part, a big piece in my career, that if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today.
You know what's
That's
interesting,
cool.
Jeff, is so I'm gonna ask you, Jeff, you know what's interesting is people when they say like, you know, like who really kind of did you model your training after? And especially when it comes to weapons, everybody says Casey, right?
Yeah.
Everybody says
Right.
Casey. But it's interesting just how many lives have been impacted by Lauren Carney.
Big time. Huge.
And I'm talking big time, right? Like major, like even like Jackson was on, right?
Yep.
And he talked about how integral, like even him getting onto Paul Mitchell was because of Lauren. And I'm assuming a little bit because of you. I don't know the story, but I hope we get into that, man.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy the lineage that a lot of especially the younger generation coming into this sport doesn't really know. Like that example, I believe Esteban Tremblay is one of Jackson's students. I wonder if Esteban Tremblay knows the lineage. You had Mike Bernardo,
Yep.
Casey Marks, Lauren, Wayne Douglas.
Yep.
Becca Ross was a part of Lauren's lineage.
Yep.
Myself, Jackson, Ricky, Michaela Johnson.
Yep.
Even though Michaela did another weapon, it's still you're under that lineage and just that history. You know that I don't know if a lot of the younger competitors know the groundwork. I would hope.
And you're Jackson's people, I would assume.
I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, you know, just talking to Ben Jones, he definitely knows, you know, his history and stuff. You know, he definitely does.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Here we go. I knew that was coming out. See, Ben's mom.
That's
awesome.
There's a lot of history, you know, and it's funny because when I was coming into the sport, you know, basically doing what all these other guys are doing, I researched so much, and I researched the old school guys. I can't tell you how many times I watched guys like Wayne Douglas, guys like, you know, Ross Levine, because they were doing things that at the time were so difficult, where now I'm sure like this again, the younger generation's like, that's easy. That's that's nothing.
I want to pause you for a sec, Kyle, because you have mentioned the name Wayne Douglas like 4 times. And that is, I mean, Jeff and I know it and love Wayne because we know how impactful and how good he was. I don't believe the competitors of today really understand that much about Wayne. What was so special about Wayne to you?
He just, to me, from watching reruns and everything, he came this 9-year-old kid that came out of nowhere and just was like, whoa. Not only, it wasn't like he was doing difficult things. It just, everything he did looked like the greatest thing ever. It was just like, oh my God. Like a spin throw catch, one of probably the basic things that you could do.
He made it
look
like
10 times
better,
harder. And just the intensity. And that's one of the things like I try to model when I was competing. I modeled my intensity off the 3, Casey, Lauren, Wayne. The intensity, that little pit bull face that he had, like when he came in with the headband and everything. And he changed, you know, how it, again, a big impact in our sport.
Big.
And huge. And I hope, like, I know, I'm sure all the younger generation, you know, if you haven't watched Wayne Douglas, do yourself a favor, go check him out.
Yeah.
You will not be disappointed.
I think your intensity was up there. I think your intensity tops them all. It's the exception to Casey. I think you and Casey are there. Casey's just her intensity has its own personality.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe was your intensity? Did you why? Because you were clearly, the times I watched you perform. That's why I said when you perform live, it hit way different. Was that like something intentional that like I will be the most intense person in my group? There will not be anybody more intense than me. I don't know if was that an intentional thing on your end?
it wasn't so much intentional. It was just that's how I am.
Thank you,
I'm
Lewis.
really like I'm like that. I'm a ball of energy. So like I'm gonna give you everything I got. My thing was I'm either gonna go out give you my all and go out on my shield,
Mm-hmm.
or perform everything right to the best of my abilities. Catch it, drop it, whatever. I'm gonna give you my all, and I don't care if I pass out on the mat.
Love it.
I'll wake up, I'll get up and continue. That was always my mentality. Just give it your all.
That's awesome, man. That's so good. So as you were, training with Lauren, what was your first team, and then let's talk about how that got you onto Paul Mitchell.
So my first team was Premier Martial Arts National Karate Team.
Right.
I know that's a mouthful to say.
Yeah.
Try saying that to judges, saying representing Premier Martial Arts National Karate Team. My name is Kyle Montagna. It's a lot. We even thought about ways of trying to shorten it up. But I started out with Premier, and it was myself, Ricky Morris, Jackson. We were the original three.
Right.
And then that's when Michaela started to come into play. After that, we were there. We were had the team for, I believe, a year and a half or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then we transitioned to Change the Game, which
Right.
was both teams were run by Lauren Carney.
Okay.
And I was on Change the Game for a year until the end of 2011.
Okay.
When I got in November is when I got the call to be on Team Paul Mitchell on my mother's birthday, of all things.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah,
that's cool. That's so cool. So let's, because some people don't know, and there was a lot of there's 6 new members of Paul Mitchell a couple weeks ago put on. We have their event happening next weekend. Let's hear, like what was that call like, and what did that feel like, and maybe what was that first year like for you, maybe shock wise?
Yeah. Did you know it was coming?
I didn't know it was coming. So it was kind of, again, not a lot of people know this, but that 2011 year, if I didn't get picked up by any major team, was going to be my last year.
Stop.
Because
Wow.
yeah, it was going to be my last year because the funds, it just started to add up, and we're just like, this is getting expensive. Now it's starting to add up a lot, and now it's like we've been doing this for 6 years. So it was like, hey, we can do tournaments here and there, but we can't do all 13 or however many there were at the time.
Right.
I got the call. At first it was shock. It was just like 6 years of hard work. And I finally got that call to Paul Mitchell. The one that all the competitors dream of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first year, was great. I was picked up with a good group of people. It felt like a family.
Well, at that
first
time, wasn't there a number of people like going into the 2012 year? Because that's the first time I saw you was at AKA 2012. That was your first, I believe, your first Paul Mitchell event.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I feel like, was there a number of people that got picked up that same year at that time?
3 other people were Audrey Donahue and Austin Jurgensen. Were the 3 forms people that got picked up.
Okay.
Got it.
So, and then later on that year, I think at the U.S. Open, that's when Jackson got picked up by the team.
Right. Yeah. He's mentioned that. He's told that story.
Right.
Yeah.
Great one as it is.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, so again, like, how much do you want to talk about as far as with JPM? Like, what was maybe?
I'll go through the good and the bad.
Let's
Yeah.
hear it all, man.
So what did you expect?
Unfortunately, it ended bad.
Okay.
All right. And
Yeah.
I'll get to that whole story.
So again, like going into that first year, that second year, what were some things that maybe are a surprise to you in a good way, and then maybe a surprise you in a bad way?
So, surprise me in good ways is just, being able, going to tournaments competing with Paul Mitchell on your back, having that awe when you walk, just feeling like, oh man, I'm walking in with the black and white, the looks, no one tells you, that you're also going to get the bad looks. Some of the things that started to for me personally was just like kind of like were red flags a little bit. Where like when all of a sudden, team members started to leave. We had one person leave.
Who was
after
it
a year? I can't say their name, to be honest. So I don't want to put out names.
That's
I don't want to
cool.
put out people's and everything.
I'm gonna
But
ask.
one person.
If you can always say, I'm not gonna say.
Yeah. After hours, I will tell you. But
Cool.
right now, I'm gonna keep their name anonymous. This person left. One of the rumors being they were bullied out by another competitor.
Cool.
Right.
And for us, it was like all of a sudden a shock. They were just like, "What do you mean this person left?" They were on the team for a year.
Right.
What happened? Nothing really happened. We didn't know. We're kind of left out of the blue. The new pit that's when we started to pick up more, when the years started to go on, we started picking up more members, and it started to become some in good and some in bad. It started to become a team where it was built up on a lot of egos, and it felt like it was every man for themselves, basically. And
what do you mean when you say that? Like, go into that a little bit more, because I might not be understanding.
So instead of it feeling like a team aspect of things, it was, well, I have this championship. Oh, well, I have this championship. I have it. And you're like, shouldn't that not matter? Why does that matter to somebody? I get it,
right.
But like, you're just, and granted, some people will say, oh, they're feeding off each other. They're trying to like, get inspired and everything. But at one point, it's like, it shouldn't matter. If you're on a team together, we bleed together, we cry together,
right?
We love together, we do whatever we do together. That shouldn't matter. And it started to become that in the aspect of things. And I didn't like that all about me mentality. It's, well, this person's getting this thing, why can't I get this thing?
Right.
Well, what do you mean when you say this person's getting this thing? What is that?
Like what? Not really sponsorship, but like they're getting this type of treatment. They're getting avenues to this. Why am I not getting that same avenue that person's getting?
And there just wasn't an explanation.
No.
Right.
No explanation. And
compete.
Basically, it was like it is what it is. You competed, and it was obvious who the clear favorites were and who weren't the favorites, who got away with things and didn't get away with things. And it just, to me, that kind of was like, okay, the worst part of all, and this is where, unfortunately, it ended bad for me. And it's tough to talk about because, it for me was a long time of, man, that sucked. I hated, the thought and the emotion, the healing to go into it. So
yeah,
back when I was in 2016, I just did the Fire Academy, which is a 3-month thing, 16 weeks, Monday through Fridays. I graduated, didn't really hear from the coaches at all. I heard from Lauren, but that's about it. Mm-hmm. No other coach. And I was on vacation. I just graduated, just was on vacation when I got a phone call from Lauren. And I was like, oh, hey, Lauren. Hey, Lorene, we have a little thing going. When she just said, hey, Kyle, that's when I was like, okay, what's going on here? And she, at no point in time was I asked what was my plan. I was just completing the fire academy. What's your plan going on here? She basically called me and said, "Hey, Kyle, I hate to tell you this, but you can wear our uniform, but we are no longer going to fund your tournaments."
All right. Well, and just that was it.
Was there an explanation?
No.
And why? My curious, because listen, every team for whatever reason makes that call to someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it curious to me is, why did Lauren make that call to you?
That, to me, that was the thing that hurt the most. I ask you guys this question. I'm going to say NFL wise, when a player gets cut from a team, who's making that decision? Who's bringing the player in and saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, but it's not working out"? Who's making that call?
It's the GM.
GM or who else?
The president, the owner.
Usually also the coach.
The coach, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. If they're the correct.
Yeah.
The coach.
Like at the top, whoever's at the top of the decision.
Exactly.
You're made the one making the decisions. You're the one making the call.
Nobody from the top called me.
Right.
Not even to tell me, "Hey, how's the fire academy?"
Right.
"Hey, what's your plan? Hey, we want to know." Because if it was "Hey, what's your plan?" The plan would have been, I would have told them, "Hey, I'm going to do two more tournaments and that's it." Okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Lauren they told Lauren,
deal with it.
You do it.
Yep.
And that to me was what hurt the most, because again, Lauren not only was a coach to me, she is a family member. I'm getting married in November, and there's two people in martial arts, they're coming to my wedding, and that's Michaela and Lauren. Those are my two family members.
Right.
That's dope.
They made her make that tough decision, and not tough decision. They made her make that call,
right,
instead of them calling me, and I didn't hear anything from them after that. Right. I went to two tournaments, the Battle of Atlanta and US Open. And it was probably those last two tournaments felt so weird because I felt like I was an outsider.
Wait a minute. And this is it. So you went to two tournaments after that phone call?
Because they were local. They were low. I could drive there. We could drive to Atlanta. We could drive to Atlanta.
We were already going to compete in them anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you contemplate not wearing the uniform?
Absolutely.
Tell me what that thought process. What was that thought process like?
Right.
I at one point I was just angry that so I had two things in mind. One, what if we went to a tournament? What if I went to this tournament with nothing on my uniform? Nothing, no blank. Yeah. And have people say, "What happened? What do you mean what happened?"
And then you guys didn't deal with that question the whole time.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to be bombarded with that, and you can't focus on competing.
The other one was calling a top team and saying, "How would you like for somebody from the Forms team to jump ship to your team?" Right. And have people say, what happened?
What happened? Yep.
He was just on. What do you mean he left? No one leaves Paul Mitchell.
Yeah.
Especially Forms competitors.
That's what I was going to say. Especially Forms competitors. Yeah.
No one leaves Paul Mitchell. I thought they were the end all be all. They were the team. Why is he doing this?
Yeah. And it's always kind of presented as, and tell me if I'm wrong, because this is the way I see it as an outsider. Ironically, this show is called Inside Scoop, right? So as once you were a Team Paul Mitchell member, you were always part of the family. So
it didn't feel like that at the end.
Clearly it did not.
It didn't feel like that at the end.
I have heard of multiple other stories. Not my place to tell those stories. And there's one in particular that I just could not believe the way it went down. Right? We'll talk off the air about that.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely not my place to call that one.
No, I
And-
understand that though, Kyle. I mean, I've dealt with a similar situation, which I haven't really even talked about, but I was in a different phase of my career than you were. You were kind of wanting to kind of go out. I was still wanting to compete, and I was probably like 17, 18 when actually CJB said, all right, we're not really going to cover you anymore. And it was kind of like, all right, do I, or maybe one tournament a year or two tournaments, do I just stop or do I kind of work my way back up, you know? And that was kind of, and I chose to kind of work my way back up till I get my full sponsorship again, and which happened. But that was like a, whoa, what the heck? Especially when it came after a year when I got like my biggest sponsorship ever.
Yeah.
You know, and probably at the time I was known as much as the other competitors at that time. I was 17, 18, 2001, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
Everyone knew my form. So it was just kind of crazy, you know, how that happens. But, and again, it could be like just a stab, right? So I definitely understand, man. And again, I think the hardest part was having to go to those two tournaments and wear that uniform, but not really want to wear it, right?
Yeah. Because unfortunately, it felt like I was a number. I wasn't I wasn't Kyle Montagna, the last year's ISKA synchronized weapons champion, multiple time world champion. I was your number 95 out of however many competitors they have had on the team. I never, you know, and then none of the coaches really ever came up to me, except for Lauren. Lauren was there.
Right.
Never came up to me. Never said thank you for your 4 years of service. Nothing.
Right.
Even at the U.S. Open, nothing. That was it. You know, after my traditional forms division, I went off stage broke down because that was it. I just bowed out. I just bowed and walked out of the ring, finishing up my kata. I'm never doing that ever again. I had nobody except for maybe one person or two. I didn't have any coaches by my ring.
Right.
I had nothing. And nobody. You know, and that was unfortunate. I wasn't able to really enjoy my last tournament as, you know, a competitor who gave 4 years of his blood, sweat, and tears to a team that he worked so hard to get on, and felt like I'm gonna cast you to the side. We don't need you. We have these guys right here. We don't need you. You're good. And it's unfortunate.
That's really disappointing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm not the only one. There's multiple people, and there's multiple people that have the same story, and I'm sure I'm not going to be the last one.
So what would you suggest as far as people? Again, I still think people, you know, that Paul Mitchell is that goal, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
which isn't a bad thing. What mindset would you give? Advice would you give to those going into that situation?
You know, I coach kids, competing wise, and as coaches, we try to look for solutions. So if these new guys coming in ever, you know, start to deal with this, you know, feeling how like I felt, because I'm not saying, and this is not me saying to these 6 competitors, steer clear, guys. This is not me saying that, because it was a big opportunity for me, and I had. No, even though there was the bads, there's also the good times of hanging out with guys like Greg Bentlock, Elias Lemon, DeAndre Walker. Those guys were like, they were literally welcomed us with open arms, and you know, had these great times.
Money right there.
Yes. Oh, I miss that guy. I haven't seen him in so long. But good guys like that. You know, you meet good people. You experience things that a lot of people will not experience. You know, who can say that they've met the CEO of Paul Mitchell and gone to brunch with them?
Right.
Not a lot of people. But if they start to feel like that, you know, bring it up. Being like, hey, this is what I'm starting to feel. And if you kind of get that pushback of, well, sorry, this is how it is, then maybe it's not the team for you.
Right.
But again, embrace it right now. If you start to feel like that again, voice your opinion. And if you get pushback from it, you know, I know they're at a point, I'm sure these kids are at a point where if I say that, I'm not going to, that's it. It's like, it's not the end all be all, you know, fairness is fairness. We all are human beings. Treat others like you want to be treated. If you're not treated fairly, say something.
Right.
Don't be afraid to say something.
You know what I love about this community we have, Kyle, is because, like you mentioned, like you're a coach as well. So many of our top competitors, like we're all coaches. Like we do this at some point, if not professionally, just constantly. What I love about this community we have is there is no shortage of advice.
Mm-hmm.
Some bad, right?
Yes.
But a lot of good advice. I mean, if you just kind of stick around this community, this weird community we have, you're going to get a lot of good advice, life advice.
Right.
Definitely.
Some of the best advice I've ever been given in life came from my dad, and it's not martial arts related. However it is, and my dad is a super. I've never mentioned my dad very much on the show. So my dad is he's a world-class chef, right? He's very obscure. He is the world record for the largest 100% edible gingerbread house, right? It's a very obscure thing, but it's super cool when he makes it. He's like, it's like food art. Anyway, so because he's so talented, he can't deal with people who don't understand his talent level. So I remember he would just jump jobs occasionally, right? He's never had a shortage of people wanting his services. However, I'll never forget this one thing he said. And I said, Dad, why'd you leave? And he goes, I work for him. I don't live for him. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, I work for him. Well, I work. We're all going to work. Right. My life doesn't revolve around him.
Right.
So I work for him.
Right.
I don't live for him. There's too much life to have. I know, man.
It's good advice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I remember, because I was like a junior in high school, and he's like, I'm just gonna quit, and he didn't work for like 6 months, right? And I remember thinking, I'm like, how do we have how we have money, Dad? Because clearly stuff's coming in, right? So he was a responsible guy in that respect, but yeah, and he fell into something a lot bigger, but like he wasn't worried. He wasn't worried that he didn't have something right away. So if you do have this like team, it's just a team, like, especially in forums.
It's a team.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, somebody didn't like you, somebody didn't appreciate you. That's someone, right?
Yeah.
That's not the one, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's really good advice.
That is.
So 2016, your last competition, then what?
Then it was the paramedic school.
How in the heck did that happen with your family of heroes, right?
So
how the heck did this go about?
My uncle was a firefighter in Key West. He retired as a captain.
Shut up. You got it's like
my grandfather,
like Thor or something like this. It's like your family's a family of heroes.
So my grandfather on my dad's side was the very first volunteer fire chief for Miramar Fire Department. That like back when they were volleys.
Wow.
And I was at a point in time where I didn't know quite what to do. I was going to school, but I was never really like a school person. I didn't like it. It was just like I would go to classes. I'll admit it. I skipped classes because it was just like I was never interested in it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I saw somebody at the gym. He's a Miami-Dade fire rescue guy, and he working out, talking about, this call I went on, you wouldn't believe what I saw, this and that and the other. I'm like, okay. So I asked my dad. I was like, what's a firefighter like? What's their schedule like? They're like, they work for 24 hours and off for 48 hours. They work 6 shifts and are off a mandatory. They get 1 shift off mandatory before they go to another 6 shifts.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. It's like, pension? Do you have a pension? So I went to EMT school while I was competing. So when I was going through EMT school is when I went to Ireland and competed and came back and did a midterm exam. Did my ride times, fell in love with the job. And I fell in love, and what I fell in love with most of about firefighting was the brotherhood. That, hey, we are going into buildings that are burning. While everyone's running out, we're running in. We're going into some sketchy situations. I can't tell you how many times. Yesterday, I was one of the calls. We were in a sketchy neighborhood, and we're just like, oh, maybe that's not good. I have to watch your back because you have some person who's literally in front of you, unresponsive, and you come to find out they have low blood sugar, and you have to do an IV right in their dark bedroom.
Wow.
And give them sugar so they can wake up and tell them, hey, you got to go to the hospital now. So that's
wild.
It's crazy. There's some really crazy, funny stories, some very sad stories. It's a career that you quickly had to grow up. And I think a lot of that, for me, I grew up a lot in sport martial arts, and that's what helped me transition a lot to firefighter, paramedic, being that grown up, being that, hey, having that game face of
definitely.
You have an unresponsive 24-year-old male in front of you who's in a lethal cardiac rhythm. Go.
Whoa.
While you have somebody screaming and hollering at you that, why aren't they waking up? Why aren't they waking up? What did they do? And you're working this person, and your goal is block out that, get this person, and bring them back to life. And it makes you grow up quickly. It makes you see the other side of things,
Right.
And a lot of, again, like I said, a lot of the growing up happened in sport martial arts, being traveling on my own, going to these places, getting lost in cities that and some towns that I shouldn't be getting lost in.
Like what? Like, where did you get lost?
Oh, I got lost in Louisville when that's
an easy one.
I forgot it was what year it was, but we really wanted White Castle. So we're just like, let's go to White Castle. We walked
What town are you in?
In Louisville.
Louisville.
Oh, Louisville? I know exactly where that White Castle is.
Yeah, me too.
I could walk there like that.
Yep.
I know exactly what White Castle. That was fantastic. I did that trip.
Yep. And we all did that 2:00 in the morning White Castle run, and you're just like, oh, this is not a good neighborhood, but whatever. Oh, we didn't know, because at the time, I didn't check my smartphone, or didn't have the navigation. So we're like, where do we go? Let's go this way. Nope, let's go that way.
Yeah, I went the wrong way before as well.
Yeah.
I've gotten lost that way too.
Yeah, Will, 6-minute walk. I remember doing that walk. Was it like 2006 or something like that? I don't know GPS. Right?
I've had that happen in
the print out MapQuest days. That was
pretty much.
You guys, the dude at the gas station, she's like, yeah, a left over on that street, a right on that one, and 6 blocks on the side. All right, cool.
I just remember we were just so hungry at that point that we're like, whatever. I think we started eating the burgers right as we were walking, just because we're so hungry. We went all the way there to get 10 different burgers. We're gonna come back. We're gonna eat them all before we even get to the room. It was fun. Those are the times.
Wait a minute. How many of there were you?
4 of us.
And you only got 10 burgers?
That was for myself.
All right.
That's what I'm talking about.
That was for myself.
That's just claps to you, my friend.
Yeah, that was myself. I was like, $20 got you a lot. I was like, $20 for $10. Yeah, give me 10 burgers. $20. Keep the change. There you go.
Every time I went to New Orleans, it was always for me I had to stop before I went home. I had to stop by the Crystal, and I would just get 20 Crystal burgers, which is the same thing. It's the southern version of White Castle. Okay.
Oh, all right.
So, and so Yeah, that was always my thing, and I would get lost trying to find my way there, just making sure I had to get the crystals before I went to bed. So
The best was California, when the hotel was like right across the street from an In-N-Out Burger, and we would do that walk all the time. Be like,
Oh yeah,
"Let's go to
I know
In-N-Out."
exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah, let's go to In-N-Out Burger. Let's go.
Let's
And
go.
like literally
That's
spending
right.
all night, literally every day, In-N-Out Burger. Just be like, because it's In-N-Out Burger. We don't get that in Florida, so
Right.
we're gonna take advantage of that.
That's right.
Which is good, but then at the same time, you're like, if you lived right there, you probably wouldn't have it but once a year.
Oh, probably not. Yeah,
Yeah. But every
sure.
time
Like
you
that's
go,
like,
you're like, all right, let me have some of this.
oh yeah, absolutely. Like, hey, let me get two of those. Two of those, when all like the people from California that were hanging out with us were like, "Are you guys gonna eat?" No, we don't. We eat that all the
Exactly. Yeah, because
time.
they have
But
it.
same with Jack in a Box. I would go to Jack in a Box and get the French toast sticks. Those things were bomb. Oh my god, those are
These are great.
legit. And all these people were like, "Oh, they're so good." And we're
So
like,
you
"We
know,
don't
used to
get this."
French toast sticks. This was so strange because you brought up Greg Vetlock. This dude, I used to travel with this dude. He would like plan out, be like, all right, when's your flight? Oh, you're gonna fly out when I fly. All right, cool. When are you flying? 5 a.m. What? So I go, I'm like, all right, fine. I'm gonna get with you. This dude, every single time, he would go to Burger King and get French toast sticks. And I'm like, that's disgusting, dude.
Oh,
And he's like, it's amazing. It's the best, man.
oh my
This is in his
gosh.
meathead phase, though, too. Right when he was off of playing football. Oh my gosh, this dude.
That's
Watch out for
hilarious.
that episode of Inside Scoop if he ever jumps on. That's gonna be
Oh my
something.
gosh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, working on that, right?
So
Oh man,
I want to hear a
ahead.
little bit because you were like, hey, I had some funny, some sad, instances happening while firefighting. I don't want to hear so much about the SAGs. You're a feel good pod. Tell me some of the
Right.
funny stories.
Yeah, tell us one of the funny stories.
I want to hear about that.
So there's a lot. Wow. We had one recently. It's a feel good one. So I was at a station. It was one of our slower stations. So in my department, we have 8 different stations.
Word.
That day, I'm a float firefighter. So whatever spot needs to be filled at a station, I go to that spot. So I go to I was at one of the stations, and we get an early call, 6:30 in the morning call. Lady said she hears from her apartment a cat meowing. And we're like, okay, whatever. It's a cat. So we go to this apartment complex, and this lady's just like, there's something in here. And we're just like, we're trying to listen, like, there's nothing here. We hear nothing. And she's like, no, I heard it from all the way from that apartment. And we're like, that's a pretty far apartment. How is that possible? She's like, it's in distress. It's in distress. And we're like, nothing. So we turn off our engine, and all of a sudden you hear, meow, meow. I'm like, oh yeah, it's in there. And they're like, oh, she's in distress, this and that. I'm like, no. That's not distress. That is, they want mama. Mama's around here somewhere. And it wasn't her car. It was somebody else's. So she was knocking on people's doors at like 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, let's be careful. And these people just half asleep. Is this your car? No. Slam the door. Is this your car? No. Slam the door.
wow.
Until they finally, she's like, is this your car? This guy's like, yeah. And they're like, okay, can you get this? There's this cat here. And they're like, okay. So we ended up picking up a cat. Let me see if I can get you right here. Ended up being right there, that little baby right there.
Wow, that is tiny.
It was literally right on the engine compartment. And it was one of those I had to move quick because
Wait, time out. So the little newborn kittens, how many? One newborn kitten is inside the hood on the engine.
Yes.
Jeez.
So a lot of times kittens or cats will crawl into people's engines because A, it's a place to hide. B, the engine is warm, so it keeps them warm. This little thing was fit in the palm of my hand. I don't know. And usually with any cat, you know, they get out, they find their way out. If they start the car, they dip. So this little thing was just sitting on the engine block, just sleeping, and quickly grabbed it and had it right in our hand, right in our hands. And we gave it to the lady. They're like, we don't know what to do with it. This is what you're going to do. You're going to call these people. So that was a feel good story.
Wow.
I'll give you one of the crazier stories
That's
All
what
right.
I had. That's what I was going to ask about.
So this was, again, I was on the engine that day, and we had a call for smoke. And we're like, okay, they smell a burning or heard a pop. We're like, what do you mean you heard a pop? But whatever. So we're going to this call, and we're like, okay. As we're driving down the street, we start to see smoke, and we're like, oh, something's on fire. Something's on fire. It's got to be. As soon as we pulled up, this Land Rover, fully involved, tires are popping everywhere, and it was okay. We need to pull a hose line. So I pulled the hose line and starting to fight this fire. Sparks flying because there's electrical wires all over the place.
Awesome.
Flames basically hitting me in the face.
How far away are you from this fire as it's happening?
So if the car is right here, I'm about right here with the hose line. Inside the car, inside the window, trying to put out this fire, where other people are working, because what the homeowners did, which if this ever happens, do not do this. They opened up the garage, which if it would have spread, the whole house would have gone and caught fire. So keep the garage door closed.
Keep the fire contained.
Yes,
right?
keep it contained.
Keep it contained.
Unfortunately, they were in so much shock because they're like, we heard a pop, and all of a sudden they open the door and they're just like, oh, it's fully involved. Like,
and they left it open.
Cars, yep, and it was starting to move to the next car, and the windows started to melt on the car. It got that hot. So that was one of the crazier fires I had with the apartment I was with.
Wow.
Kind of like, oh crap moment.
Yeah.
So,
wait a minute. I don't get it. So you're like this far from the fire. How did you have eyebrows still? I don't get that.
So I was wearing what we call an SCBA mask. So I had a mask that I was breathing oxygen through, because you don't want to be breathing all that toxic fumes that are coming from fires, especially the materials that are in cars. That's a lot of it's hydrogen sulfate. That's
shows how little I know about fighting fire.
Yeah, that's all bad stuff that you do not want to be breathing in.
Right.
So that's protecting me, protecting my face, and I have what we call bunker gear on, which right now I'm about 180. With bunker gear and my pack on, I'm about 230.
Wow.
So it's
yeah.
Wait a second. You're joking. You're 50 pounds worth of stuff.
So our air pack itself is about, with the harness, it's 30 pounds. 15 pounds for the bottle itself, 15 pounds for the harness that we wear on and control. And then you add the jacket, you add the helmet, you add the pants, you add everything to it. It adds up. We steel toe boots. It starts to add up. The worst is when you have to, and I fortunately, when I was on my probationary year as a firefighter, had to experience was a high-rise fire, which was a 10-story fire, which was in an apartment building that we had to walk up 10 flights of stairs. And by the time we got there, we're like, oh my gosh, we're exhausted. Now you have to go to work. And you have to fight fire that was pretty hot.
Yeah.
And then guess what? You have to walk all the way down the stairs.
That's right.
Luckily we took breaks, but it was just like, wow, that was a killer fire.
Yeah.
So
man, dude, just hey, thank you for what you do, man, because that's intense. I mean, that's
appreciate it.
yeah, it's wow, it's
Again,
wow, man.
like I said, it's and we're cross trained as firefighter paramedics.
Mhm.
So when you go on, so the firefighting stuff is great, but the rescue part is where you see a little bit more of like you're going into people's homes, you're interacting. You know, when I was on
if someone
probation,
OD'd or something like that, you're
we
responding.
get a lot of those. You know, we get a lot of those where we have to, you know, a couple shifts ago we had that where a guy was OD'd and we gave him Narcan, and it was in a really bad area. In his house where
Narcade? What is that?
Narcan. So
What's
Narcan is a drug that reverses the effects of opiates. So basically, if somebody were to take, say, oxycodone, a little bit too much oxycodone, or a harder drug like heroin, they OD.
Yeah.
We give them this drug called Narcan, and we wakes them up. And you're like, and they basically will give you three options that you get. You get one, that you get the confused look. Two, you get them puking at you. Three, you get them angry because you just took away their high.
Right. Wow.
And
Dude, you were dead 10 seconds ago.
Basically, there's been times where we were like, you know, you were dead a couple minutes ago, right? And they're like, that was good stuff. Yeah, that was good stuff. Why'd you do that? You know, we had you know, this year or past 2 years, I've been on the department for 2.5 years now. My first year, we dealt with COVID, and kind of that weird aspect of like, we didn't understand what it was. You know, that we were on some calls, we were gearing, you know, we were putting a full like Tyvek suit, which looks like a painter suit, because we didn't know what this thing was.
Yeah.
Where now now we have a better understanding. We have different protocols that we set to be like, okay, hey, we have a COVID call. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put them in the stretcher, this and that, and the other. Take them to the hospital. We're gonna let the hospital know, hey, we have a COVID call. So it's not often that we have them now, but before there's every shift.
Wow, man, amazing stories, man. Great stuff. And again, like you said, like that martial arts aspect definitely has helped you get there, you know, and I mean, even just learning, of course, sport karate, but even just the things you learn in your martial arts to get your black belt, you know, definitely, I feel can help you with anything in life. So amazing stuff.
It helped me tremendously. You know, for all the bad that comes with it, you get a lot of good. And I got to experience things that a lot of 29-year-old people might not get to experience in their lifetime with sport martial arts.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate for it. I'm very fortunate for our sport.
That's awesome.
Do the goods and bads.
Hey, so Kyle, all right, we got about 5 minutes left, all right?
Okay.
And I want a couple of different opinions. Let's go. All right, who is, in your opinion, the best bow competitor of all time? Or you don't have to say one if you want to do top three, whatever.
So I would have to say it's kind of like a top six. It's like
wow.
You got Wayne, you got Lauren, Casey, Mike. I'm going to throw Jackson's name in there.
Yep.
You know, because Jackson has done things that has changed the way bow has been done.
Yeah.
And this is the last one is a toss between two people. Ross Levine, Nate Andre.
Yeah.
And Nate Andre doesn't get enough love.
Yeah.
I think we completely forget about Nate. You know, and a lot of things that Nate innovated, a lot of tricks that we see today was an innovation from Nate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really
Ross
those.
Gave him a ton of love. When we had Ross on, he gave him a ton of love.
Yeah.
But
there's one for me that doesn't get the recognition either, and that's Joey Greenhall as well, I think.
That's another one. Man, I just forgot about that. It's another
one because he was doing things at that same time as like Casey was, but he was in a
Absolutely.
division with, like Butch Marks and Jennifer Santiago, different ones that were, Calman, Ashley Lane, different ones that were getting that second place above him, so.
So I pose a question to you both. Who do you guys think is the greatest weapons competitor of all time?
Jackson.
So he says Jackson.
Okay.
It's
you
really
say?
hard for me. For me, the weapons, as far as the best form that I've seen weapons, I'd say it's Kalman. To me, it's Kalman Choka. And then my next is Casey. To me, it's Casey's my favorite overall like sport martial artist, I think. But
I say Kalman Choka.
Yep.
And the reason why I go Kalman Choka is because I feel like Kalman Choka opened this door. When he came out at the Diamond, I was there at the Diamond Nationals 2007. He came out and did that one opening with those two swords.
Yep.
That to me completely changed the way weapons was done today.
Agree.
You have now because at that time it was nobody was doing that. Now, how common is it to see competitors such as Rashad doing double bow, or triple bow? How common is that nowadays? Where back then it was just like, oh my gosh, and to me, Kalman, and not only from a competitive standpoint, from a person standpoint, Kalman would always seem like that stand-up guy that was just like, man, that's the guy. If you want to learn something from, learn how to be a great competitor, look at that guy.
So I think you're right in that because, and especially
Agreed.
with what you last said, because Kalman, people might not know this, did like everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kalman was a fighter, right? As well.
People forget, the first time I saw people forget Kalman was, started out, when I first saw him, he was doing team sync with Marcel Jones on Pro Rank.
Right.
That's how I first.
That was
an awesome form.
Yeah.
Dope team sync form. That's how I saw Kalman, and then he's a man that could do a lot of different things, and I think a lot of people forget that. They see that double sword, but they forget this guy was doing forms, this guy was doing fighting, this guy was doing sync, he's doing all this stuff.
Kalman was competing nationally at age 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I got onto the circuit and I was 10, he had already been on for at least a year, and he was already on Metro at 9. And like he gets on, he starts not really even. I'm saying almost until he was like 18, till he really, or maybe even 19 or 20, till he really started getting his success as far as winning first places and winning grands. He had a couple of wins in 2000 and 2001 with extreme forms, but when it really, like, he put in his time, and he kept going and didn't stop, and again, like you said, like he was winning teams, and then that built his way up to really innovating the sword. And really a lot of his wins at first came from traditional, and then working his way up. So he put in his time. He went that's why I have so much respect for him, man.
Yeah.
I've known him since we were literally like competing against each other, from 9, 10. We were always that same year.
You two were always like, you were.
Yeah. So it was just, it was one of those things, man. A great guy. And we would fight against each other, do weapons, do forms, everything. So,
you know what though? I got a question though. Would you really, as far as weapons, would you put Kalman above Matt
Emming?
Yeah.
I would say he has more success. It's really hard because to me, I think both of them are the best ever in their weapon.
I don't ever see.
Yeah.
That's the difference, I think. I don't know if I've never seen anybody better than Matt at a nunchuck, and I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard,
I don't know if we're going to see anybody better than that going forward.
No.
It's hard to say that because you say that about so many people, like, oh, you've never seen the best, fighter you've ever seen. Right. And
and
this person. right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is the best
we say-
forms person this way. Like, never say this is the
Yeah.
nobody's ever going to be better than
we
this person.
we
at extreme
say
forms.
we
That's
say
always
that we say that, but what we don't know is by that next tournament, this kid can come out of nowhere and be like, where did this kid come from? And he's doing
Exactly.
double sword and doing things that
Yep.
we've never seen
We've
before.
never seen.
Even that cowman would be like, I've never done this before, type
Exactly.
thing. And it is truly a never say never type thing. We don't know, but like, I totally agree with you, Alex, about Matt. There, to me, there is no.
Yeah.
There's no
I think
person
the
who will
hardest
be.
thing, the toughest thing against Matt is people literally forget how great his performance was at the Diamonds in 2011 with his weapons form.
Yeah.
And the reason they forget how great it was is because
Because
Kalman had
Kalman.
maybe one of the single greatest performances in martial arts
Oh,
history
Yeah.
in that
In the
same
time.
division.
It's
yeah,
not.
Like, how's
Yes.
that fair? Right?
yeah,
Like, you know what? I'll compare it to this. Because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, right? Forever, right? This is like a throwback, like throwaway record. There was Steve Young had like the highest quarterback rating for a season ever. And it was like 111 point whatever, right? Dante Culpepper, which is the name of people are like, oh, you remember that name? He blew it out of the water at like 114 and
Yeah.
change. But
I
it
remember that
didn't
name
freak-
because he was a Dolphin.
But it was before the Dolphins. It was when he was
Yeah,
in
I
2004,
remember.
when he was with the Vikings. He was like, they were killing it. But it didn't freaking matter because that year Peyton Manning broke like the touchdown record and had like blew the record out of the water. Had like 128 and change, and it was like, all right, so no one will ever remember that
How-
record that Dante Culpepper kind of broke, but didn't really because of what Peyton
Right.
Manning did. That's the same thing that happened to freaking
Right.
Matt Emig.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it's Matt to me is my favorite forms competitor.
He's
at
the
least
coolest.
with
He's got a
open-
level of
with
cool,
open
right?
forms competitor.
he's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, both of those guys changed the game, and both of them really have very similar stories of going through different teams and going the ups and downs of being the one that everyone thought was going to be the best, and then kind of went down a little bit, then went up and then down. And so, again, competitors, go check their stuff out. What's cool about those years is that we can find all their stuff on YouTube.
Mhm.
That's my only thing now is over the past 5-6 years, there's not as much stuff on our current competitors on YouTube. So it's all
I think we've
streamed.
been
and stuff,
too
so-
dependent on
Live streams.
sportmartialarts.com.
Well, and live streams. I mean, everyone
live
has it
streams.
on their phone, which
Yeah.
is good. It's just harder to
Yeah.
search sometimes. So, all right, let's give your opinion on the current state. Do you follow sport karate now? Do you?
I do follow. I still keep in touch with like what's going on, who like the top competitors are. I like today I looked up who were a little bit about the 6 new JPM members.
Yeah.
I knew 3 of them already. I knew Isabella, Avery, and Sam. I used to compete against Sam, and then Avery. Remember when she was like 5, running around tournaments and everything. Same with Isabella. Remember when she was the little girl, running around these tournaments, and then all of a sudden they're dominating their divisions.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So
Awesome.
What
awesome.
about Ben Jones? You see a little bit about him?
he has a lot of potential.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of potential. And if they could develop him. And not, my big thing is with those guys is not so much push you need to win. And instead of being like, you know what, let's develop you.
Correct.
And make you better and develop you because the wins are going to come. Let's face it, the wins will come. But instead of pushing you, giving you, because I'm going to give those.
You're guaranteed second place.
Yeah, I'm going to give those. It's true. So for those 6, I'm gonna. If they're watching right now, I'll give you get a little piece of advice. This tournament coming up next week, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be hella nervous because you are wearing black and white. it is a cool but scary thing to be like, oh crap, I'm wearing the black and white. The pressure, you feel like the pressure is on. Everyone's looking at you because everyone's looking at you for either the reason of, oh, good job, you're on JPM, or the you shouldn't be on JPM. Why I should be on JPM? Why these people on the JPM? They're gonna give you that. Take the time, to find like your inner zen, whatever. Be like, it's not your first rodeo. Take Paul Mitchell away. Take that. They don't even think that's on your back. Think of that, whatever team that you were on beforehand. Think that, okay, that's still on my back, and go out there and do what you do. You've done this before.
Like they wanted you for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Continue to do that.
They chose you out of other people for a reason. So go out there and show them why you were chosen. That's my biggest advice for them.
Awesome. Great stuff, man. Kyle, dude, like, this has been fun. And
yes, absolutely.
Lots of fun. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for giving us the inside scoop on things and digging deeper on some stuff, that maybe you haven't shared before, especially on a platform like this. So I think it's good for us to hear both sides. You know what I mean?
Right.
Positives, negatives, just the whole journey, because that's the only way all of us are going to grow and make the sport better, and make it a safe place for kids, adults, everybody. Not just physically, but, emotionally, spiritually, everything, relationship wise, all of that. So there's so much we all have learned from the sport, and the more that we share those stories, the better. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It was a real honor.
Good hanging, brother. This was a lot of fun. For the first time. It ain't going to be the last time. Right, Kyle? You going to be on again?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I'll be on again.
Yeah, man. All right,
this
Alex.
This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys.